Well, I'm very excited to be here today. My name is Isabel Castro. I'm the Director of Marketing for Accelera by Cummins. Oh. All right. And today I'm going to be talking about how we can scale up electrolyzers technology by creating a sustainable future. In other words, I'm actually talking about what that means for Cummins. But before I start, I do want to talk about our mission. And our mission is to accelerate the shift to net zero by pursuing the most promising path forward. And how is a diesel engine company doing that? Well, Cummins is not only about the diesel generator components and the distribution center. We also have a zero emission arm, which is the Accelera by Cummins, the arm that I represent today. And the good thing about that is because we can leverage all the locations that Cummins has. We are a global company, more than 190 countries and territories. We have more than 70,000 employees. We've been around. This year is going to be our 105th anniversary. And there's more than 10,000 dealers locations globally. But one important point is that just last year, we invested $1.5 billion in R&D. So it's really by being a startup within a consolidated company. But Accelera is not only about electrolyzer. Even though I am going to be focusing on that today, I do want to highlight that we also have fuel cell technology, we have batteries, we have the e-powertrain, and also the traction systems. Ooh. If you combine all of that, except the electrolyzers, you have everything that you need to go from a diesel engine powertrain to a net zero, to a zero emissions powertrain. So that is the beauty about that. But today, as I mentioned, I'm going to be focusing on the electrolyzers. Our electrolyzer technology is something that we have been leveraging 70 years of experience. We acquired a company that started all the way in 1948, a company called Stewart Energy. They were based in Canada, and we're very proud of that. We still have our manufacturing that up to today. Stewart Energy was developing the atmospheric alkaline, and they bought actually Vandebour in Belgium, where that company was focusing on the bipolar plate. They were also doing alkaline, but bipolar alkaline. Hydrogenics then in 2005 bought Stewart Energy and Vandebour, and it was using that, using the alkaline technology as a cash flow to really go and develop the PEM technology. So they started early on with a small PEM, and eventually they scale up to large PEM. And this is really what I want to focus today when we're talking about scaling up. And we hear that a lot, right? We hear that it's like a buzzword, scale up, scale up. We need to scale up to reduce costs. What that means for Cummins. So when we were going from small to large, there's three ways that you can scale up, okay? So first of all, you can just put more cells on the cell stack. So like imagine like a snake, you're just putting more cells on it. Or you can just make the surface area bigger. You have more space for reactions, you have a higher hydrogen output. Or you can actually increase the current density. By increasing the current density, more current, more hydrogen output. And if you're doing any of those three steps, but if you're doing keep your efficiency the same, there is a complexity level that when you're going towards the increase in the current density, it starts to increase much more, because now you might actually want to not only change your design, but the components that go within that cell stack. And this was actually what we were focusing on when we were going from small to large. And this is actually what we're still focusing today. This is a t-shirt slide, and it's helpful for me that I'm not a technical person to talk about our product portfolio. We have all the way from, let's say you're choosing an outfit, you're going to see what is the size that I need. So if you're doing a hydrogen project and you're doing a small one, we would recommend you to utilize our small system that is an alkaline system that is actually produced today in Belgium. And then we have the medium, large, extra large, and future, we're gonna have an extra, extra large up to 1 gigawatt, which is really focusing on what I just mentioned on us scaling up our PEM technology. The medium one, which is our containerized solution, is our Electrolyzer 500. You can have that in up to 1 to 2.5 megawatt, and that is a plug and play. You just get a container, you put water, you put electricity, and you're good to go. So for medium-sized projects, so something like up to 20 megawatt, you really want to use that type of system. Now the large system is now it's an indoor, and that is our Electrolyzer 1000. That is the one that when you hear about the largest plant in operation today in Americas, that was the product that we were using there. And I'll tell a little bit more about that in a few seconds. But that one is already, it's using the same cell stack that the Electrolyzer 500, but now in a 5 megawatt module. Meaning that instead of going from 1 to 2.5, now you have a 5 megawatt module. And the XL there, now you see in the bottom, you're going from 2.5 megawatt to 3.1 megawatt. And while we're doing that, you see the size is the same. What we're really doing, we're increasing the current density, meaning that we're gonna have the same sizable stack. We're not making bigger, we're not making larger. We're having similar size stack, and we're increasing the output that you have there. And that is our generation 6. That's gonna be in the field very soon. We have, that's already been sold. So today, if you're interested on that, you can go in our booth and we can talk with our commercial team. We're ready. It's in development, but it's going to be ready in the field very soon. And then for the future, that's why we're looking at a consumption phase. So how can we continue growing that? How can we make sure that we are not just putting it larger and longer, but we are actually leveraging what our technical team has been doing, the work that we have been doing in increasing the current density. But you ask me, Isabel, it's very hard to understand. How big is that? You're talking about this cell stack. And I actually think that a picture tells more than I can, words. There's a picture that really helps us to understand, which is a Biden size. So this was actually President Biden visiting our manufacturer. And what he's standing next to it is our cell stack. So I'm really talking about, and I might be biased because I'm in marketing, but I do think that we have the lowest footprint in the market today. So this is our cell stack. And why should we even care? Like why we're going there if it's more complex, if you just talk about how there's other ways of doing, is because Cummins, Accelera by Cummins believes that footprint matters. So our objective was what are the things that we can really make an impact when the customer is thinking about the levelized cost of hydrogen? And if you think about the levelized cost of hydrogen, you have CapEx, you have OpEx, but if you really go around the CapEx, things like the building that you're putting around, the land, the size of the work that you need to do, and even things like certifications and safety, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that later on, that's when you see that really the footprint matters. So this is why when we're saying, instead of you going bigger and bigger and bigger, we're really keeping our strategy is really going in the lowest footprint. And is that not just me saying? I actually have a research here. This is a public paper. This was published by the Hydrogen Council with McKinsey. And it's highlighting the updated numbers on CapEx from 2020 to 2022. And you see that a lot of that, I mean, everything that was updated were cost on buildings, cost on labor to produce. And if you think about it, that's not part of the hydrogen infrastructure, right? That is cement, that is metals, that are things that you're competing with any other construction. But also there are hidden costs. So are things that when you're thinking about what I just mentioned before on the levelized cost of hydrogen, things like the weighted average, the weighted cost of capital, the WACC. So when you're doing that calculation, how much it will be the cost for you to borrow money, well, now you need to start thinking that those other costs that are mentioning there. So things like the complexity of your project, how you're actually delivering that. So for you to actually build something and get all of the things that you need to build, that is, the timeline and where you're building, those things matter. So footprint really matters. And there are also some other hidden costs that when we are thinking about it, how can we actually leverage our product for the customer to be able to deliver a lowest levelized cost of hydrogen. And things like safety that I mentioned. So one thing that we did even though we have an indoor product, you see that we have an enclosure around it. So that means that everything that is inside of that enclosure is hazard and is classified as Zone 2. What that means is that if you're building a plant with a cell stack that doesn't have an enclosure, now your entire building is going to need to be certified to be able to handle hydrogen. You're going to need to have most of your equipment certified. And that's actually just by having a component that is certified versus not certified, you can add up to 30% of your cost. So just by, even though we're thinking about an indoor product, we were also thinking about, again, not only the footprint, the size matter, but how can we continuing leveraging our layout, our design, to bring that to the end customer, bring a lowest cost for the end customer. And of course, safety is not only on our design. We have safety is core to us. And this comes all the way from Cummins' history to how we're handling hydrogen. Other pieces that is important is we're not a startup, right? We're a startup, but we are within Cummins. And as I mentioned, we have 70,000 people employed by Cummins. So really, if we're thinking about doing this transition, we really have the responsibility of doing right. So we are expanding. We want to make sure that we're going to deliver to our customers, but we already have 5 different plants around the world that we are ready today to take orders and deliver those orders. That matters. You don't want to start constructing something and then later on not having your equipment and then just delaying that. So now that's a hidden cost that if you're not getting the right lead time, you're not really able to start producing hydrogen and starting getting your return of investment. Similarly, bankability. So we are talking about new technologies. It's really important to see, and I'm not here just saying we have PEM technology, we have alkaline, and I'm surfing the wave of others. I'm talking about the technology that we have in the field, that we have been collecting data and getting better at it. So this is several examples of the Electrolyzer 500 that we have in the field. But we also have the one that I mentioned. We're very proud of this one. It's in Becancour. And there's a highlighted that I did in yellow in the corner. Before, in that same space, we had alkaline systems, the ones that I mentioned on the small one. And we were producing 3 tons per day of hydrogen. In the same space, when we put our indoor systems, now we're producing 10 tons per day. So you see the footprint matters. This is one that we just delivered. This is in Florida. We start producing bubbles in 2023, but we just delivered the keys, I think 2 weeks ago. So this is a 25 megawatt project in Florida, and it's connected to a solar farm. We're also very proud of this project. But there's more to come. Those are some of the public ones that I can actually talk about it. And I'm really hoping that the next time we come here to present, I'll bring more pictures and more of what we're doing. I do want to highlight that we have a 90 megawatt coming up, which I think in this page, at least publicly, is the one that we can talk and in terms of scale, how we're going bigger and bigger and bigger. So this is what I had. I do want to thank you all, and I know it's lunchtime, so I really appreciate that you guys are here hearing me. Thank you.